I'm doing an 11 by 14 painting. What I'm going to start with is, this is just simply a nice flat wash brush. I'm going to start with my sky, and what I'm going to do is wet the sky down a little bit so I can get some of the softness of the clouds in. Okay, I've got a couple clouds that have a crisp edge to it, but I'm simply wetting down the paper here to give myself a wet surface in which to paint. Cloud shapes, even big cumulus clouds, tend to have a soft edge, and so by painting into this wet wash, I'm going to give myself a chance to catch the softness of these billowing clouds here. I'll paint carefully around my lighthouse, but that's the idea here, just wetting this down so I've got a nice wet sheet of paper to paint into. If you lose a hair or two, pick those out. We don't need stray hairs floating in our sky. This is not what I would call a very expensive brush, and that's one of the characteristics of a lesser quality or a less expensive brush, is that they're not quite made as well. So generally, if you can, try to buy what I call artist quality materials, simply because they're better quality, and you can see it once you start to do a painting. Art supplies can be expensive, but you know, it's just you get what you pay for, no matter what supplies you get in any discipline. Sometimes in an effort to buy cheap stuff, you save your money initially and then you end up having to replace it anyway because it's inferior. Anyway, enough said about that. So this is a good brush for simply putting down a nice moist piece of paper, so when I put color in here, it's going to dissipate in this wet surface. That's what I'm after. Okay, so good. Some of this has started to dry already under these hot lights, so I've got to re-wet this a little bit. But we'll be ready to go here in a second. Get rid of that stray hair. Okay, so now I'm going to go in with a nice round brush. This is a sable, and I'm going to just start to pick up some of my sky colors. So my sky at the top is a little darker than my sky below. So I'm going to come in with a little darker color up here in the top. And I'm simply mixing up plenty to get myself a nice rich blue up here. I'm using ultramarine, and I'm using a little bit of cerulean. And I'm going to pick up just a touch of alizarin crimson to move it more towards a darker purple shade. So I'm going to start to just lay that in up here. Get plenty of color. And I vary it a little bit. Just the more you can vary things, the more interesting it becomes. So essentially I'm in the business of trying to get a nice blue, deeper blue up in here. And I'm going to go outside my margins, so that way when I drop a matte on it, all the stuff that I want in the painting is in the painting, and all the stuff that I don't want in it is not. So now I'm getting down here towards this cloud, and the sky is going to start to get a little lighter, so I'm going to come in and get more of my sky blue colors. Get that green piece out of there. let this blend in. Sometimes I tilt my paper a little bit, but essentially I'm going to paint around these shapes. There's my cloud shapes up here. Cutting in below the clouds, and what's happening is I look at my photograph, I'm going from a deeper purple blue sky at the top to more of a cerulean sky underneath, and then it starts to get purple again at the bottom. I don't know exactly why that's happening in the photo, but I'm going to sort of follow its lead. Get more of the cerulean and manganese colors here. Got to wash a little bit of green out of there because inevitably your palettes are going to leak at some point. So right up to the edge of my lighthouse. One of the things that is important is this lighthouse is essentially white, you know, so I want to make sure I catch the brilliance of the sunlight, especially on the right side of this lighthouse. So I'm getting a nice shift in my color here. I'm going to come back in with a little bit of a paper towel, and this way I can blot out some of my color, and I can get back some of the little bit of the harder edge to my cloud. Essentially it's a soft cloud, but I want to catch a little bit of that feeling of the cumulus stacking here. So with a paper towel I can blot a little bit. This is kind of nice. I don't want to do too much so that I get this cardboard cut out of a cloud, but it's nice to get this little bit more structure to my cloud up here. There we go. That's kind of nice. And then down here, I'm getting this nice lighter, sort of a turquoise wash underneath my cloud. And then there's a fog bank. I would gather that's probably what it is. At the bottom, there's this fog bank that's kind of creeping across the surface of the ocean. And it's darker, and it has sort of a darker bluish purple cast to it. So I'm going to come in here with that and get that back. So my sky is going from darker blue, purple blue, down through a cerulean, and then back into this purple blue at the bottom. So I'm going to try to affect that sensibility. This is called a wet into wet technique, and it's really fun because watercolor behaves a lot like nature does. So I'm getting that in there, making sure I'm painting around the crisp shapes that are my buildings, because I'll need to come back in there later. I'm getting some nice little watermarks in here, which are kind of fun. And next I'm going to come back with this purple haze hanging over the top of the ocean here. Just getting a little bit of a darker. Nice way to mix purple is you just take ultramarine blue, touch of alizarin crimson, and you can start to wash that in down here. And this is sort of what I'm seeing in my painting. I'm getting this sense of transition zone where the fog is hanging over the ocean a little bit. Around the top of that rock, let that pop up there to catch light. Give it this sort of airy feeling of the fog coming in. What's nice about a good brush is that this is for instance, this is a number 14 round brush. And it's well made, so I can not only put down a big wash as I've just done, but I can also get good detail because it comes to a nice point.